Thank you. Great. Thanks for your patience. So I'd like to introduce my co-host, Praveen. And Praveen has been practicing mindfulness since 2006 and is a student of Thich Nhat Hanh of Thai. And he has brought mindfulness to the environmental community, to nonprofits, corporations, and young people in the US. And he's currently a financial advisor to startups and entrepreneurs around the world. Praveen, I wonder if you wouldn't mind just sharing about me in case it was hard for people to hear with the echo.
Yes, let me do that. So Kaira, it's really great to have Kaira in Sri Lanka. Kaira began practicing mindfulness in 1997. She's an ordained nun. She's an ordained nun for 15 years with Thich Nhat Hanh's community. And she's been teaching mindfulness around the world, combining the practice with art, play ecology, and social justice.
Thank you, Praveen. So I'll just let us all know about how we're going to use our 75-minute webinar time. So we'll share about what mindfulness is, and then we'll have a chance to experience it in short meditations, some basic practices. And then we'll focus on how we can take care of strong emotions and do another practice to explore how to do this. And we'll finish with time for questions and answers and an opportunity to send loving kindness to ourselves and others.
Great. Thanks, Kaira. So we're going to just start off by just accepting what it is that we have right now. So we are in the midst of some of the most challenging circumstances that we've faced in recent times. And it is already causing severe physical and mental distress around the world. You know, we're looking at massive job and income loss at a global scale. We're looking at the fear of infection and disease for all of us. There's loss of family and friends. There's uncertain access to food and supplies. Loneliness is a big problem right now with all the social distancing going on. And of course, there's political conflict and gaslighting. So all of this is really adding a lot of tension and pain to our bodies. At the same time, reducing the immunity in our body. And, you know, we're just really nonstop in a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear and anger. So I wanted to just start by, you know, taking a second to acknowledge this. So breathing in, I'm aware of the great challenges that are facing myself, my community, my country, and the world. And breathing out, sending out the energy of compassion and love to myself and everyone impacted. So that's just a second there to acknowledge what's happening. So, by the way, we have a lot of slides here that we will send to you. So do not feel the need to take any notes or, you know, take any notes. We'll send that to you at the end. We just encourage you to just sit back, relax, and you know, enjoy the session. So when we talk about mindfulness, you know, we're really talking about a practice that can potentially help us go through this time we're in with a little bit more ease and grace. So mindfulness, you know, how do you define it? One definition by Jon Kabat-Zinn is that mindfulness is a way of paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally. Another definition by Thich Nhat Hanh is mindfulness is a kind of energy that we generate that allows us to bring our mind back to our body and get in touch with what is going on in the present moment within us and around us. So when we're talking about mindfulness, we're always talking about mindfulness of something. Usually in the practice, there's multiple areas that we can place our attention, our mindfulness. One is mindfulness of breath, and you have mindfulness of body, mindfulness of feelings, mindfulness of emotions, mindfulness of thoughts, perceptions, and concepts. And of course, there's many ways to practice mindfulness. You have sitting meditation, there's walking meditation. You can practice lying down, deep relaxation, which we're going to get to do a little bit today. There's mindful eating, mindful dishwashing, there's journaling, mindful movements, mindful speech, and listening. So if you think about mindfulness, it's really a practice that when you start practicing, you start developing concentration and insight. And it's the insight that really helps us develop the qualities that would help us get through times like this, qualities such as equanimity, joy, and compassion. So when you start practicing, you have a really strong intention to improve your life, or maybe you have a great desire to practice for the benefit of the world. And when you practice in this way, when you stop and you become aware of your body, your feelings, your mind, you start to look deeply into your body, your feelings, and your mind. You develop a certain concentration. And this concentration leads to insight. The insight that, wow, things are pretty impermanent. They're constantly changing, rapidly changing in the current context. Things are also perhaps impermanent. And things are sort of interdependent. So when you have these insights, you start to develop some ease in your body. Perhaps some joy comes out of just the practice of stopping and concentrating. And compassion may arise in your heart. So all of these, at the end of the day, can really help us get through these, navigate these times more skillfully. As you start practicing, you'll start to notice the stress in your body is reduced. So we become more resilient to illnesses. We become more mindful of our consumption, that is consumption of our food as well as media. We learn to better self-regulate. We can take care of emotions that we have in these times that, without maybe saying something or doing something that could hurt ourselves or others. And then, of course, as you practice, you'll realize, you'll learn to recognize that, not everything is wrong. And there's a lot of things that are good in the world and are okay. And that there's a lot of conditions in the world for our well-being and happiness. And so we're able to maintain that sense of well-being even in this time. And finally, there's a meme going around that you may have seen. It says, if you can't go outside, you can go inside. So this is just a great time to really become more comfortable with solitude, use the time to learn more about ourselves than maybe we would have otherwise. So, all of this is really quite well researched. So if you look at the number of research studies out there over the last 10 years, they've gone from 200 studies a year to well over 1,400 studies in the last year alone. So some of the research that's very interesting. One looks at the gene marker for inflammation. They found that just 8 hours of mindfulness practice was found to reduce the gene marker for inflammation. The very popular mindfulness-based stress reduction program out of University of Massachusetts has shown a 35% reduction in the number of medical symptoms in the program participants. And of course, mindfulness has been used a lot in schools. I personally have been involved in bringing mindfulness to students and teachers, and the effects are just really tremendous in the classroom. You just have a lot of hope for the world when you see children practicing and speaking to each other kindly, and also teachers when they have tools to take care of the burnout and stress that they're dealing with. So I'm now going to hand it back to Kaira to go over the practice a little bit more in depth.
Thanks, Praveen. So there are many profound benefits to this practice, as Praveen has shared. And one of the things that I find so helpful with mindfulness practice is it gives us the chance to stop and to come home to ourselves. So when we are aware of what's happening inside us and around us, we are relating to life in a different way than usual. Usually we are pushed by all of our, habits and stress and all of the way the thinking mind operates, that we're on automatic pilot. We're moving from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. And as soon as we are mindful, which really just means knowing what we're doing when we're doing it, then we stop that habit of rushing, of pushing, of moving, of like leaning into the next moment. And that gives us an opportunity to relate very differently to our reality, to see it clearly. So there's a Zen story of a man on a horse that's galloping really fast, and the neighbor yells, "Hey, where are you going?" And the man says, "I don't know, ask the horse." And that's us when we aren't connected to what's here and now. The horse is our habit energy, the way we relate to technology, the way we relate to all that is pushing us from society. So with mindfulness, we have an opportunity to recognize, first of all, we are on a horse that's speeding off into a direction we don't even know where, and to choose, to stop the horse, to get off, or to go in a direction that we are consciously intending to go in. So the first thing that mindfulness helps us to do is to feel our body, feel our breath, and to know that we're in the present moment. We're always in the present moment. Our body is always in the present moment. Our mind can be in the past, our mind can be in the future, but the body can't. The body can only be here and now. So mindfulness in this first moment of stopping helps us to experience what's here and now by connecting with the body. And the breath is a very powerful way to come back to the body. So another way of understanding this practice is coming home. Coming home to what? Coming home to our bodies, coming home to our minds. We say that when we are mindful, we touch our true home. This is the home no one can take away from us, that cannot be destroyed. So the home that's external, that we live in, is subject to all sorts of harm or being taken away. But the home inside of us cannot be taken away from us, cannot be destroyed. So it's like we are, the leader of a territory, and we need to come home and take care of that territory. We need to know what's going on in all areas of our land. Most of the time, if we're not mindful, we're in another place. We're not in our home territory, so we can't take good care of it. So this is especially important in times of challenge, where we're even more pulled out of our home, out of our true home, into worry, into anxiety, into what's next, what am I going to do, how am I going to manage this difficult situation. And so it's precisely in those moments where we feel anxious and fearful, or we're in pain, or we're experiencing grief or loss, that we need to learn how to come home and touch what's real and true in this moment. And so the breath is a very powerful anchor that can reunite the body and the mind and help us to be a full human being once again. When we're outside of our body, when we're outside of our experience in the present moment, we're not fully here. So we're not living our life in the fullest way that we can. We're divided, we're distracted. And so as soon as we come back to our breath and feel the in-breath and feel the out-breath, we are home. We are fully here. We've claimed our birthright of our human experience to live deeply this present moment. And in that simple act of breathing with awareness, of connecting with our body, we can understand so much and be relieved of so much suffering, of so much difficulty that isn't possible if we're caught up in our mind-made reality, which brings more and more suffering. So Praveen is going to lead us in a short practice so that we can experience what this is.
All right, thank you, Kaira. So I'm going to ask all of you to just find a comfortable position. If you're seated on a chair, you may want to sit at the very edge of your chair with your back upright. And if you are seated on a cushion, you can just make sure that the weight is evenly distributed between the two knees and the base of your spine. So if you like, you can go ahead and close your eyes. What we're going to do is just come back to the present moment. So we'll do that by just listening to the sounds around us. So notice whatever sound is present in your space. It could be the air conditioning, sound of the air conditioning, birds outside, sound of my voice. Notice also the feet underneath your ground. Just notice the sensation of your feet touching the ground. And notice yourself seated on the chair or the cushion. So this is all happening in the present moment. What else is happening in the present moment? If you like, you can put one of your hands just on your abdomen, just below your belly button. And notice that you're breathing. As you breathe in, your abdomen's expanding outwards. And as you breathe out, your abdomen's going inside, it's contracting. You can quietly say to yourself, breathing in, I know I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I know I'm breathing out. And just allow your breathing to be very natural. There's no need to change your breathing patterns. Your job is just to be a scientist, just to notice what's happening without judgment, without trying to change anything. If you do feel the need, if you do notice yourself judging, just notice that as well. Just imagine yourself in a lab taking notes of yourself. Your job is only to take down everything that you notice. So as you breathe in and out, you can notice that maybe your in-breath has gotten a little deeper and that your out-breath has gotten a little slower. Breathing in, I notice that my in-breath has gotten deep. Breathing out, I notice that my out-breath has gotten long. It may also be helpful for you to adopt a counting practice to help you build your concentration, particularly when you're feeling scattered or distracted. It's very simple. You just pay attention to about 2 inches below your belly button. As you breathe in and notice your belly expanding, you say 1. And as you breathe out, you say 1. You go in this fashion all the way up to 10. So breathing in 2, breathing out 2. And anytime you notice yourself getting distracted, it's okay, you just come back to 1. And when you get to 10, count all the way back down to 9. Sorry, to 1. Breathing in 1, breathing out 1. Breathing in 2, breathing out 2. Now we're gonna come back to the room again that we're in. So notice again the feet touching the ground. Notice the sounds around your room. And if you've closed your eyes, you can go ahead and gently open them. So if you would, please go ahead and share in the chat again, just what that experience was like for you. So we see some responses saying very calming, centering, relaxing, peaceful. The counting helps to focus. So this is a very easy, quick practice that you can do anytime during the day. In fact, when I start my sitting meditation practice, I will often start with this almost every day for the last many years. So as you sit in this fashion, you may, on some days, it's probably very calm and relaxing. Other days, you may notice that your mind is racing. There's a lot going on with your feelings and emotions. So this is just the first few minutes. We're going to dig in over the remaining time we have into how we can be more present with our body, as well as our feelings and emotions. So I'm going to hand it back to Kaira to lead us a meditation to expand our mindfulness to our body.